one of the brightest minds in the game, does some analyst work for ESPN and UFC as well. He's our old friend, Michael Chiesa. Michael, are you there?
I'm here. How are you?
Yeah. Man, you got the whole drip. You got the whole, you had everything for Miami, huh?
I did. I did. It's unfortunate, man. Before we kind of dive into that, the first thing I want to say is I wish Lee a healthy recovery. I've had back injuries myself. They're no joke. They take time, and I hope he takes his time to come back to a full bill of health. And I wish him nothing but the best. He's a tremendous guy. He's a tremendous competitor. Would have been a really fun fight. But I just hope that he heals up very, very soon.
Classy stuff. Appreciate that. As do we. Seems like a great guy. It was a fun fight on paper. And by the way, you look fantastic. The hat, the old school. You just look tremendous. Who's on the jersey?
My boy, the equipment manager for the Knicks. He's the Woo York Knicks. Shaolin.
Oh my God, that is sick. Wow. I'm actually quite jealous. I am jealous.
And then I got this in a vintage store in Seattle. This is
yes. Oh my gosh. When did you find out that Lee was out?
I found out not this last Friday, but the Friday before. I was out doing a little golfing, and Danny called me with the news. And I saw the writing on the wall, Ariel. I follow the Killcliff FC Instagram page, like I follow all the other pages, and I just didn't really see him in the background at many practices. There was a point in time when I'd kind of watch the videos and kind of look for him and see if he was at wrestling practice and see what he's doing, and doing my social media research. And I just kind of quit seeing him in the background of these videos. And I kind of had like a sneaky suspicion in the back of my mind, like maybe something's going on with him. Maybe he's just having private practices. I know he has some of his own coaches out there, so I wasn't too sure. And then, so when the news, when Danny came through with the phone call, I wasn't as surprised as you thought I would be. But everything was just too good to be true. I was, first camp back in a long time. I'm healthy. I'm injury-free. Everything has gone so well, and I got this great plan for Miami, and my family's coming, my friends, and I just knew like something bad has to happen. Every training camp, every fight week, there's always something that comes up, and it just hadn't happened yet. And it just so happened the thing that did happen was me losing my opponent and losing the opportunity to compete in Miami.
Okay, so was there ever any talk of keeping you on the card, of salvaging this whole situation?
Yeah, there was. And I'm not going to name names of the guys that were offered that turned it down, because it was a matter of visa issues and some guys not being able to make weight. I'm not that type of guy to go out there and blast like, well, so-and-so turned it down. It's like, look, I'm a tough out for anybody at 170 pounds, especially if you only have a couple weeks to prepare. So, nothing really came to fruition. Nico Price was lobbying hard to get in the fight, so I want to give him his flowers. Like, that guy was like ready and willing to jump in, but I think the UFC had other plans for him. But just the weight issues, visa issues, things of that sort. So we just couldn't make anything happen. I found that out, I think just this last Friday. So it was like a week of being in limbo, and it was a tough week, just like, I don't have an opponent. I'm having my doubts, and I'm trying to make that final push. But when I did get the news, I'm like, I'm going to finish my training camp like I'm fighting. I found out Thursday I wasn't fighting. So I still went to practice Friday. I finished my strength conditioning on Saturday. So I can just at least say, like, I finished the camp. Like, I finished the last 2 days, the last 2 hard days. I got it done, just so I can say, like, I did everything I could. And so now I just got to move on. I want Leach to recover, and hopefully him and I can do it down the road. There's one guy I think that we kind of have in mind, and I have in mind too. I would love a fight with Gunnar Nelson. I think he's a tremendous competitor. I think styles make fights. I know he's available, and I think that he's interested as well. So hopefully we can get something moving in that direction. I would even be willing to go across the pond and fight him in England in July. I've never done the whole go to enemy territory thing. So I think that'd be a fun challenge. I think that style presents a lot of challenges, and I think he's a heck of a competitor. So I think me and Gunnar Nelson would be the fight to make.
Wow, I love that one. Did you guys propose that? Are they interested?
I think that Danny was kind of already making moves, kind of pitching it. And, that's about as far as it's gone, So I think that I'm sure Gunnar would be interested in that fight. But yeah, so there was never really any fights like that were presented to us like, hey, what about this? Like, we never really had like a fight that we could have taken. You know, it was just like, it was us kind of putting the offers out there, seeing what was available, and the roadblocks were weight and visa issues. So, but yeah, I think me and Gunnar would be a really fun fight, and be good for the fans.
You say July, that's in 4 months, 3 months. So that means you're gonna
Yeah.
have to do a whole other training camp.
Well, I mean, that would be ideally. I'd like to fight sooner. You know, but with Gunnar, it's like kind of an opposite style matchup as to competing against the Leech. You know, I was competing against a striker with a nice left hook. Going against a grappler, a guy in Gunnar Nelson. You know, this guy got fourth at ADCC. He's got an armbar win over Jeff Munson. Like, I didn't even know somebody could armbar Jeff Munson. And if the people that don't know who Jeff Munson is, he's the Snowman. Look him up. Tremendous grappler. But you know, maybe June in Canada would be a lot of fun. I've never got to fight in Canada, but I would like to fight on a pay-per-view, maybe International Fight Week. I know it would be another long training camp, but that's just the sport. I mean, you can't predict these things. You just don't know what's going to happen. And you know, I want to fight that makes sense. I think me and Gunnar Nelson makes a lot of sense. And if I got to wait for that fight, I'm willing to wait a little while, you know, but we'll see what happens.
So I'd be remiss if I don't ask you about Kevin Lee. What happened with Kevin Lee? Is there any truth to any of this? What's going on here?
Come on. When does that guy say anything that's true? I mean, this is what he's just trying to find a way to fit into the equation, or one of his little nuances he says. No, Kevin Lee was never. So my theory is,
by the way, you just cut out there for a second. Kevin Lee was never, and then it cut out. So can you repeat that just for the record? Kevin Lee was
Kevin Lee was never offered to us. That was never pitched to us. That name never slid across our desk. My theory is him and Lee have the same manager, Ali. And I think that, you know, they tried to pull the like, hey, Lee is out, but this Lee is in, you know, like, so I think they tried to pitch that. And to my understanding, Sean and the UFC, they're the ones that shot it down. It wasn't shot down on our side of things. Would I love to silence Kevin Lee and shut him up? Absolutely. You know, so that was not something that was proposed to us. I think it's something more that they proposed to the powers that be, and the powers that be said no. So don't be buying, as Nick Diaz would say, don't be buying those wolf tickets. You guys are eating up them wolf tickets.
A lot of wolf tickets from that side of the table. I know for a fact, but is that annoying? Like I say you're coming on, and I get a lot of like, make sure you ask him about Kevin Lee, why he's ducking Kevin Lee. I'm like, why would this guy duck Kevin Lee? I mean, I don't understand. But is that they're not talking about me, they're talking about you. Is that annoying that this just gets posted and then people run with it and say that you're the one ducking?
You know, that's just what that generation of people do. They like Kevin and these young guys, like they like to just kind of throw things out there, you know, throw things at the wall and see what sticks. Like, yeah, Chiesa turned me down. Like, whatever you got to tell yourself to pump yourself up, go for it, bud, because you're going to need it, because we will fight down the line. That's a fight that's going to happen again. And I think that if I was him, I think it'd be of his best interest to take that win and run with it, because it's not going to bid very well for him if we rematch. So that fight will always be
surprised? There. Are you surprised he's back?
Huh?
You surprised he's back?
He needed better management. I mean, I think that him signing with Ali was smart. Kevin says and does a lot of stupid things, but there are some smart decisions that he makes. And I think him signing with Ali and leaving CAA was the right move. I think that, you know, him getting a win outside the promotion, sneaking by Diego Sanchez, and get himself a win, getting back in the win column also kind of shines him up a little better. But I think that was smart on his part. I think it was smart for him to go to Kill Cliff. I think it was smart for him to sign with Ali. He's doing a lot of the right things, and he's a young guy. I mean, let me put my analyst hat on, okay? I think that this guy is very young. He's got a wealth of experience against top-tier competition. I mean, he's been in there with Charles Oliveira, Edson Barboza, Tony Ferguson, myself. He's only fought top-caliber competition through his last, 8 fights in the UFC. Basically, from Francisco Trinaldo on, he's fought killers. So this is a guy with a wealth of experience, and if he can find a way to stay healthy, and if he can put himself in the right positions, meaning the camp, the training partners, the management, you put those pieces together, I think he can make another run at the title. But that run at that title will come after my time in the sport has come and gone, because if we ever fight again, I'll beat him.
Okay. And so for the record, just to repeat, you would be open to fighting him. This never came up. This was never brought to your attention. All good.
Absolutely.
By the way, what if they come to you?
The social media stuff doesn't bother me. I've been in this game too long to be bothered by the, the mom tweets and my phone's been blowing up with all sorts of stuff about me turning down fights. That stuff doesn't bother me, dude. I have bigger problems in my life than worrying about people
Yeah.
chirping at me on social media.
If they come to you with him in July or June, are you down now? Like, would you take that now, or do you
My
like a
focus is
Gunnar
Gunnar
fight?
Nelson right now, but we'll see what
Okay.
happens. I mean, if that's what they come up with, sure, let's do the dance, But I think that that's the move we're trying to make is push towards Gunnar. So, and that's a fight that I've kind of had my eyes on for a long time, but we'll see what happens.
Obviously, the last time we saw you was the Brady fight,
Mhm.
and I don't think we've talked since. Could I
No,
ask
it's
what
been
your
a while.
thoughts are on that fight? Like, what happened? What went wrong?
Man, I've never really talked about that fight, and this is, no excuses. That was my third fight in a year. I got COVID right as I was about to start training camp, so I got laid up. My first time getting COVID, I got laid up real good for like 3 weeks. Couldn't train. I came back. I actually had a good camp, so I wouldn't say that COVID really had any effect on the fight at all. It was just like kind of like I said, the adversities you face in a training camp, in a fight week, and things of that sort. So that was my adversity through that camp, was having to go through the whole COVID scare. And I just kind of respected that, he got to my back and I just kind of wasn't ready and willing to take the risks to get out. Cause I mean, the guy's as strong as an ox. I mean, if you've ever seen him in person, he's a walking muscle. He's very, very strong. So it's like when he clamped on my back, I kind of shut down a little bit. And then once I realized, like, I'm probably down 2-0, I got to go for it. So that's when I kind of started to open up, and I had that good third round. And I kind of kicked myself a little bit for not going for it sooner. Um, and maybe I shouldn't have been back in there as soon as I was. Like, I really didn't really take a lot of time after the Luque fight. And that's the fight. If I could have that any fight back more than any other one, even over the Kevin Lee fight, it would be the Luque fight. And it's not because, like, oh, I think I would have won. It's not something like that. It's just like my headspace on the night of the fight was just not there. Like, I had a tough camp mentally. I was by myself in Las Vegas. Like, this last time I went to Vegas, I brought my team with me. I brought my coaches, my teammates. We got an Airbnb. We were all together. The Luque camp, we were all kind of spread out. Julie was supposed to fight Nunes, so Rick was in Chicago. So I went to Vegas by myself, and I spent too much time watching film on Vicente Luque by myself, and I kind of built him up in my head. And then on fight night, when I go back and watch that fight, I fought scared. I fought like I didn't want to take damage from him. I built him up in my head to be this absolute killer. And he is an absolute killer, but I didn't do anything to give myself the confidence to win that fight. And it just kind of, the walls just came collapsing in on me, and I lost that fight. I feel like I beat myself. I'm not saying if I rematched him, I would beat him. It's just like, I'd like to be the better version of myself mentally and get another crack at him and see how it goes. But maybe I should have taken more time off after that fight. Who knows? But it's nice that having the injury that I've had to kind of go through and mend over the course of this last year and a half. It's been nice because those losses feel so far in the past that I don't really feel like I'm like on a losing streak. I just feel like I'm just about to fight again. Like, if I fought shortly after the Brady fight, I'd feel the pressure of being on back-to-back losses. And I've been here before, and I know how to fight out of it. But this time off has been a blessing because it's put those so far in the past. I'm not even thinking about them. I'm just focused on whoever's next and just getting back in the win column.
And so, to be clear, that was November of 21. So it's been a full year and change, and you were supposed to
Yeah.
return here in on Saturday in early April.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why no fights in 2022?
So I promised my then fiance, now wife, Kelsey Joe Berger, also now Kelsey Joe Chiesa. I promised her after the Brady fight that I would focus on planning the wedding. So, when I'm in training camp and she's asking about flower arrangements and things like that, it's just like in one ear, out the other. I'm not even thinking about the wedding, focused on the fight. So the Brady fight gets over, we get to planning the wedding, and we get a lot done. And I start thinking, like, man, I think I want to get back in there. So I was on the other side of the state coaching a wrestling tournament. And when the day was over, I went to get a lift in, and I was doing a shoulder press. And when I racked the weights, I just felt this pinch in my back. I was like, that felt weird. And so I just called it a night, went and laid down, and I couldn't get out of bed the next day. And it turns out I had a really, really severe disc herniation between my L3 and L4. And that was a battle for a long time. For people that don't know, like, I've had a history of back issues. I had a ruptured disc before I was supposed to fight Tony Ferguson in 2016, my L5, L6. And then I think it was my L5, L6. But yeah, so I've ruptured a disc in the past. And then I had this disc herniation. And this was in the end of February 2021. And I was thinking, like, you know what, maybe I will sneak one in before the wedding. I'm still in good shape. I'm still training. Like, I might as well go for it. And then the injury happened, and that's what sidelined me for a long time. I had a lot of epidurals. I had a couple nerve ablations. I exercised every way to mend the injury without getting back surgery. You were talking about DC earlier, our buddy. He told me, don't get the surgery. He goes, if you get the back surgery, you're never going to be the same. Like, especially for me and my style, like he told me, like, when he had to get his back surgery, he couldn't train wrestling the same way, so he's going into these fights against Stipe Miocic, not training the way he used to. And for me, wrestling's a big part of my style. That's a big part of my game. I get the back surgery and I can't focus on the strength that leads to me having the most success inside the octagon. That just doesn't make sense. So I just exhausted every possible way I could mend the injury. And fortunately, things have panned out and I feel good. I feel healthy. I haven't had any issues this training camp, but I do think down the line, when it's all said and done, I probably will have to get the surgery.
Damn. Well, I'm happy that you're okay now and that you were able to fight and have a full training camp with no problems. You said earlier when you were talking about, putting your analyst hat on, and I mentioned that you've been doing some great work, and I love to see. I remember us talking about this in the Fox days, and you wanting this so bad, and so I always smile when I see you do this stuff, and you're doing a tremendous job, and you've earned your spot, and you've taken the hard route and the long route, and you deserve it as much as anyone. Could I ask you to put that hat back on for a moment and talk to me about your weight class? What would you do with the 170-pound division? What would you do? Leon Edwards has been very clear about not wanting to fight Colby because he doesn't think Colby deserves it. What's your take on what's going on at the top of that weight class?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is it should be Belal Muhammad. I just think that it should be Belal versus Leon Edwards. You do it in July, and there's a storyline there. Like, there's not really a storyline with Leon and Colby aside from what we just saw when he rematched Kamaru Usman the third time in London. Just Colby being there, that the storyline was created there, but there's just not enough substance there. And then you got Belal, this guy that's on this insane win streak, knocking off contenders with single digits next to their name. I mean, he's getting consecutive ranked wins, tremendous win streak against good guys, and you cap it off with a finish over an undefeated prospect and Sean Brady. And you look at the history of him and Leon. He stepped in on short notice to fight him. The fight ends due to a controversial eye poke, and then they're jabbing back and forth. There's some bad blood there. Let's throw Belal in there. He's deserving of the shot. For Colby, it's like maybe if they want to sit him, he's been sitting so long, and you, like Chael said in his exact words, you got to sweeten the pot with Colby Covington to get him to fight. So just let those two fight. And then I'm sure Colby wouldn't have, if he's waited this long, he'll wait. He wouldn't mind waiting longer. Have Belal and Leon fight, and then the winner can fight Colby Covington. Hamzat's moved on, to my understanding, to 185 pounds. So the Colby Hamzat fight is off the table. Now, the only thing that could throw a wrench in all of this, Jorge Masvidal gets a win over Gilbert Burns, which that's unlikely, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing that's ever happened. That could be the only thing that could kind of rewrite everything I just said. Because you have to strike while the iron is hot with Jorge Masvidal, because he only has so much time left, and that would be a big fight. I mean, 3-piece in the soda, the backstage altercation. There's something there between him and Leon, and it's like, would you want to risk Leon fighting somebody else if Masvidal was to beat Gilbert Burns? I'm not sure. Now, let's say Masvidal loses. I say you do Burns Colby, you do Belal Leon. Boom,
man. I like that. I liked it a lot. I don't know if it's going to happen that way. And I wonder, like, so if Masvidal, do you give, like, what would you say, analyst wise? Like, do you see any path to victory for him? Because I do think he wins on Saturday. He cuts a promo in front of the Miami crowd. How do you not reconsider things, right? Like, how do you not say, maybe we should go this right? Because he's going to come across as a megastar, right? Like, that place is going to go insane if he wins, right? Is this a pipe dream, though? Is there no shot of it happening?
Anything can happen. Like, when that octagon door closes, man, anything can happen. We've seen some of the greatest upsets. We've seen Ronda Rousey lose to Holly Holm, TJ Dillashaw step up on short notice and fight Hernan Barral. Like, we've seen massive underdogs come through in the biggest moments. Could Masvidal win? I mean, it would be unreal. I mean, Miami is the top on that arena is going to absolutely explode. Like, I don't even know what you call it, Miami-Dade Arena. FTX is
Yeah,
no longer in existence. So yeah,
right.
Miami-Dade Arena is going to blow up. And there are paths to victory for Jorge Masvidal. I mean, he's as explosive of a striker as we've ever seen, and he's savvy. He's a veteran. He knows how to train smart. I was really impressed. I listened to his Joe Rogan interview, and he's got a very high fight IQ. I think I've always known he's a pretty savvy fighter, but not as much as I thought I knew. Like, when listening to him on Rogan, he's a really smart guy. Burns has been knocked out, so there's something there. I would say it's not a puncher's chance, but there's a chance. But I mean, Gilbert Burns, the world champion level jiu-jitsu, he's got knockout power in both hands. That's a tall order for Jorge Masvidal. So I do think that if he wins, I mean, he could rewrite the script of this plan that they have for Leon Edwards and Colby Covington. I think that it would be smart. I don't really know if Colby should be rewarded the fight with Leon Edwards. I mean, I know he stepped up on short notice and made weight, but like, anybody would do that. Belal would have done it.
Right.
Masvidal would have done it. Burns would have done it, especially if they knew, like, hey, if you come here and make weight, like, you'll get the next title fight. Anybody would have done that. So can Masvidal go out there and play spoiler? I guess we'll find out on Saturday.
By the way, what do you make of this? And it's very fresh, and
Yeah.
you may not have any thoughts. I don't even know what my thoughts are, to be honest. But this UFC WWE stuff, as a UFC fighter, what are your thoughts when you saw it? What were you thinking?
I mean, it doesn't come as a surprise. I mean, the UFC's just got so much momentum right now, and I think that you put the two together, you could make for some interesting crossovers. Are we going to get Brock Lesnar back? Do we see Brock Lesnar, John Jones? Who knows? It is a lot to digest, but I do think it's good for the sport. I think it's good for wrestling. I think it's good for MMA. I think there's good personalities that could jump on both sides. I mean, imagine Biggie doing backstage interviews, or something like that. Like, there's a lot of cool things you can do, and I like it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the UFC, Dana and Ari, I think they know what they're doing. And we'll see what happens. It is a lot to digest, though. I mean, we just became this superpower in the sports entertainment world. It's insane.
It really
Are they going to allow chairs? Like, can I jump off the top of the octagon now? Like, let's say, like, you jump off the top rope.
I feel like the possibilities are endless.
5-star frog
possibilities are endless. It's really insane to think about how far the UFC has come, right? To be in this position to where now they are under the same umbrella as WWE and valued higher than the WWE is really, like, you know what I mean? Like, when you consider the early days of Zuffa owning it, and when you consider the dark days of the late 90s, it's really surreal to see how far the sport has come. And by the way, not that long. Right? That was not that long ago, 20 something years when Zuffa bought it. And then, of course, the sale just 7 years ago. And initially people thought that maybe they had paid too much for it. And now look at it. It's being valued at $12 billion. So crazy time.
It's
just
wild.
Insane.
It's wild.
Can I ask you before I let you go? And I don't know if you can do this. I don't know if you're working or not, but Izzy or Pereira, who do you think wins?
Oh, yeah, I can do this. I can do this all day.
Okay.
I'm not working. And by the way, someone that is working is Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier will be making his debut as an analyst for ESPN. That. And I told Dustin when I saw him, I think I saw him in Texas at a pay-per-view. I said, dude, when are you going to do the desk? I want to hear from Dustin Poirier. I think he's got a brilliant mind for combat sports. I love his mentality. So I'm excited to see him at the desk and see how he does. And I'm excited to someday hopefully sit next to him at the desk and talk fights. But I think Izzy takes it. Do I have a little bit of a bias? Yes, but I will remove that from the equation. And I will say, I think that Izzy is just one of those moments where there was a lapse in his guard for one moment. And it just, in Pereira was able to capitalize with that left hook that he's just known for closing the show with. And I think that Izzy will be savvy to it. I think that there will be more wrestling incorporated into this fight. And let's not forget, he had a lot of success with the hands. I think that he's going to come back refreshed. He's going to come back hungry. And I think that he's going to shine as the challenger. I feel like he really shined as a challenger, making his way up when he finished Derek Brunson, when he was out there just styling on guys. I think we're going to see that Izzy again, but a little more shades of wrestling to his game. And who knows how bad of a cut Pereira had, because, I mean, he didn't really have this fight was announced with like 9 weeks of a camp. And when you're that big of a fighter and you got to make a 40 to 50 pound cut, you need all the time you can get. Is that going to come back to kind of bite him in the butt? It remains to be seen. But I do think we're going to see a better version of Izzy on Saturday night.
The one thing I worry though, you get knocked out, you come back so soon. I agree with you. I thought he looked great. He was seconds away from stopping him in the first round, and I still maintain it
Yeah.
was an early stoppage. But I feel like I'm the only one who's left on that island. Point is, come back so soon after a knockout. Historically, the guy who loses the belt and comes back in the immediate rematch doesn't win that fight. That's as far as Izzy is concerned. That is my worry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just for Izzy coming back too soon, I don't worry about it with him because those kickboxers, dude, they're built different. Like it's different when you're a high level professional kickboxer. Like you could get dropped and knocked out a couple times in a fight and come back and win. They fight a little more frequently. They fight their common. They fight opponents multiple times. Like you look back at some of the greatest kickboxers ever. They've fought certain guys like two, three, four times. So I think for him, he knows what he's doing. I don't think it's too soon. The stoppage, I'm on the fence about. Pereira, you got to look at who look at the fight, and you look and see that Pereira's got Izzy hurt, and this is a guy that's an absolute destroyer. I mean, one moment where he could have framed him up and kneed him could have really put Izzy out for a long time. So, was it an early stoppage? Was it a just stoppage? It was a stoppage. I don't think it was right. I don't think it was wrong. I think it was just in the moment. Maybe that's what should have been done.
Great to hear from you. Great to have you on as
Yeah.
always, Mike. I'm sorry that you're not fighting this weekend. I love that fight. I thought it was a great bounce back fight for you. Would have been very fun, but I also love this Gunnar Nelson idea. I'm not going to lie. I love that a lot. I like that a lot. So I hope that you get it and get a fun enemy territory fight. That would be fun as well. Or go to Canada. All these things are fun. So glad to hear
Yeah.
that you're okay, that the back is okay, and hopefully we see you back out there sooner rather than later. Thanks as always for coming on. And I love the setup, by the way, the wood and
Thank
everything.
you.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
When I entry to Spokane after I won the Ultimate Fighter, when all my wrestlers came and met me at the airport, I'm holding the sign up. It's a
Oh,
legendary
that's
photo.
amazing. I love that.
Legendary photo.
That's amazing. Thanks, man. Talk to you
Go
soon.
Knicks.
Appreciate it.
Playoff spot secured. Let's go Knicks, baby. Knicks for life. Let's go.
Let's go. I love that. And yes, Michael Chiesa just reminded us the playoffs are secured. We are going to the playoffs. We, the capital W, we.